Welcome back, dear viewers. You're still watching the Daily Debate, and the foreign ministers of Egypt, the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia and Bahrain held a meeting today in Cairo. The meeting is within a coordinating framework between the four countries over the actions that will be taken against Qatar in the future if its response to a list of demands is not yet satisfactory. The meeting focused on the developments in the decision of cutting ties with Qatar. The meeting is an important one as it is the first meeting aiming to discuss the crisis. And to tackle more and know more information about the meeting, the timing of the meeting, the importance of the meeting, the international community's thoughts about the meeting that took place earlier today in Egypt. We have with us in the studio in our program today Ambassador Mohammed Mahmoud El Ashmawi, member of the Egyptian Foreign Affairs. And we also have, very good afternoon, sir. Good evening, sir. And we have the pleasure to have you with us. And we also have with us Ambassador Mohammed El Husseini, Economic Committee Director, UN Association. A very good evening, sir. And we have the pleasure to have you with us, sir. We start off by asking you, what do you think of the timing of today's meeting, the four ministers, the four Arab countries, four ministers that took place? The timing, the reason of the timing, the measures, and more about the meeting, sir.
It is really an important meeting, and the developments concerning the crisis of Qatar and in the coordination between the four states, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, the four countries coordinating their policy against Qatar, and again, and to see, and because yesterday it was only that yesterday Qatar gave an answer to some questions of the four countries concerning its relations with terrorism and terrorist acts, and it is really a new development in the crisis of Qatar.
Ambassador Mohammed El Husseini, why do you think, from your point of view, that this meeting take place in Cairo at this time?
Actually, in the beginning, let's move back to 2014 when all this action had been started. In that time, there was an agreement with Qatar and the Gulf, the GCC, the Gulf countries, and also the countries in the Middle East, that Qatar will take a place in the stability of the Middle East. This stability, it's coming now by the attack of the terrorism, which is already eating the life and the death in our countries. Especially in Egypt, you have the first example, which you can see this is the only country in the Middle East is fighting terrorism and losing the children and them soldiers on a daily basis. And the international community is supporting Egypt, and the United States and Russia and all the countries worldwide is with Egypt with one footstep. Why the Gulf countries choose Cairo? Because Cairo now, all the operation it's running for the peace agreements, for united the allies again to have this kind of a clear vision to all the countries, is supporting tourism or not supporting tourism in the table. Why? Because you have suffered in the last 4 years, not look like any other country, because the other countries, it's a war. It's an internal war, look like in Iraq or Yemen or Syria. But you have a stable government and you have a stable administration and you are already securing your borders, but you are being attacked from inside. Why that happened? President Fattah al-Sisi, after the last summit had been done in Riyadh with President Trump and the leaders for the Islamic countries, have announced that when we talk about terrorism, we will not talk about these groups, because these groups, it's not a systematic military, you can go in an actions face to face. We will talk about what are the hospitals, how there is a hospital for the wounded soldiers, for those terrorism soldiers. And then the second, how they are, where the fund is coming from. I'm not talking about Qatar, I'm talking about the outcome of the summit. They mentioned that we need to put who is funding the tourism. This is number one. You can come in everything after that. So who is taking this vision? It was President Fattah al-Sisi. So in the diplomat relation, you must return back to the core of the start of the impact of what is happening. That's why they choose Cairo. But from 2014 up to 2017, you are an observer as a witness in the media or in the diplomat relation. Nothing had been changed, but the situation become more worse and worse and worse. And when you find the allies, now there is an administration, we thank God that it's Afghan, which is the Democrat administration in the United States, Obama administration, and there was the main reason of all the unstable movements have been done in the Middle East. But now President Putin and Mr. Trump, they have a clear vision now, and we can say how we can find that. We can see in the Asitana, the last meeting, there is already a positive outcome. So this is a refer for any summit will be coming to us in fighting terrorism.
Sir, how do you see the stance of Saudi Arabia towards Iran and the stance of Saudi Arabia towards Turkey?
Well, I think towards the stand of Saudi Arabia towards Iran is, they are, is an enemy country. They're calling it. It's also a
because Saudi Arabia declared that
yes,
Iran is a country that is bringing out terrorism.
That's assisting terrorism
yes,
all
exactly,
over. Yeah. The country #1 in the world. Giving aid and assistance to terrorism, according to the Saudi point of view.
And Turkey, sir.
And Turkey, it should be an Islamic country. It should be a Sunni country also, and but. At the same time, there is new developments concerning the crisis in Qatar. Now, Turkey is coming and having a military base in Qatar, which is, the Saudi Arabia is looking at it now, not the same like as, Iran, but at the same time, there should be a coordination between the Sunni countries against Iran and the Shiites.
Sir, what's your take on the base that Turkey is putting in Qatar now?
Well, I think it's a great problem because these countries, Iran, Qatar, Israel, Ethiopia, are the neighboring countries of the Arab world. When the Arab worlds come to be very weak, now these countries are coming up in the area. That's why Turkey has a point of view now. Iran also, Israel and Ethiopia. So the Arab world, unfortunately, we are in a very bad situation in the Arab world. We are making fools from the same country. We are Arabs, and at the same time, we are enemies of the Arabs. The great enemy of the Arabs should be Israel, not Iran, and not the Arab countries. But unfortunately, we are warring against ourselves in the area. That's why the neighboring countries are coming up against us.
Very disappointing, sir. Sir, do you think that Egypt is gaining a leading role again in the region, or is gaining a leading role in the region, in the Arab region once again?
Trying.
And would it be possible?
It would be possible if we take the steps we are taking now. Why? Because in the last 40 years, Egypt, when we talk about the international community, there was an absence to Egypt, and we just have a declaration of some, let's say, some movements have been done, and we have saw the manipulating in the sustainable rule to the Arab countries, referring to what His Excellency have mentioned, that when you look to the Middle East, how was Egypt standing before? What was the position to Egypt? It's stopped this position in 1979. And let's put here one thing. Do the Arab countries didn't insulate Egypt when we signed the Camp David agreement with Israel? No, we have faced the same thing. So what Egypt have did, that President Sadat, he come to the nation, he talked to the Egyptian, and he talked to the Arabs. And then we put a clear, we find the Arab, they have a clear demand, and we return back to that. The only comment I have it now for the Qatar administration is the Emir Tamim, he didn't come out to the Arab nation. Yeah, he respected the rule to Emir of Kuwait when he said, just let's make the waves come down and then let's come with a statement. But you need now to come with a statement and talk about this demand. Okay, you have a lot of comments about those demands. It's hard to be done in the reality world, but you need to clear your vision and your situation to the whole community. When you look to Egypt, starting in 2013, I'm not talking about the administration of President Sisi. I'm talking about the second revolution have been done. Because what he was going through is, they find the revolution have been done in Jan 2011, in 25th, that they find the Egyptian have already awake for the long sleep of these ages and decades. So what have been done is, we cannot leave the Egyptian to be rise again. We cannot leave Egypt to rise again, because based on the history, Egypt is a powerful country in the Middle East.
It was obvious to sir on today's conference. It was very obvious when the four ministers were.
Of course, that's why they choose you to put the summit here and to put the meeting here. And this is something we're supposed to be also proud. I'm talking about the diplomat relation, that talking the stage of your country. It didn't be in Riyadh or in UAE or even in Manama. It's come to Cairo. So returning to that and to resetting your position again, I'm seeing the position of Egypt of this situation to Qatar is the best position. Why? Qatar now, they have a strong rule. When they talk to the international community, I'm talking about the human rights here and the international law community, they talk about we have just one out path to Saudi Arabia, and our air space, it's beside UAE and Bahrain and Saudi. So our people now are suffering. This is how they will gonna to go to the international court and file a cases like that. This administration using them people to take to have an allies of them case. This is what we are doing here in Egypt. In Egypt, we didn't say we will return back the Qatari living in our country. We just take about the logistic cutting for the Air Force, the airplanes, and this is it was a good movement. We didn't cut the trade, this in and the outgoing and incoming trade and
maybe we should,
operation. No, we shouldn't, because people with this is an Islamic Arab people in the end of the story. And that's what a Minister of Foreign Affairs of Saudi Arabia, Al Jubair, today he said, we don't have a harm to the Qatari people. Yeah. And they are already having a hard time. Why? When you talk about the Qatari community, 73% of them, they have wives from UAE and Bahrain and Kuwait. They are all marrying from each other. Now you divide them. So it's for Qatar, it's not good. And for us, it's not good. But look to Egypt. For my own perspective, I see Egypt movement. It's stable. And Egypt is the first country in the 4 or the 10 countries which cut the relation, is suffering from the situation is happening in our country daily basis. So, as we are returning in our position, yes, but we need always to have a clear demands and vision with everyone.
Exactly, that was what I wanted to ask, sir. Yes, I wanted to ask you, go ahead and see
I'd like really to add something to what my colleague said, because Egypt is, looking at the national security of the Gulf countries as a piece, as a part of the Egyptian national security. And Egypt is really defending the Arab national security, which is in danger all over the Arab world. And Egypt is the main country in the Arab world. So we have to do something. That's why the meeting in Cairo was significant.
Exactly. So how do you think Qatar responded to today's meeting in Cairo that took place?
Unfortunately, as our foreign minister, Mr. Sameh Shoukry said, it's an inactive point of view. Still an inactive point of view. It is very, it is not, active at all. So we have to do something, and we have...
Qatar is not active at all?
Yes. It was not responding to our point of view, to the 4 countries' point of view, and it's against what they said.
Okay, against, then how are we going to be solving this crisis?
Well,
where do we end this? Are we supposed to be escalating the sanctions?
Yes. Yes,
then
that's
when
why
I said that we should treat them and we should trade against Qatar should stop, then I was not wrong.
No, I'm not saying that you are wrong. Sorry for the introduction, but what I'm saying is deal with the administration. Don't deal with the people, because when you stop your trade, those people where the food is coming from, where the supplies is coming from, where the good is coming from.
How are we going to be dealing?
I'm talking as a representing to the UN and the human rights.
We want to solve this crisis, and we want Qatar to respond to what the Arab countries that are boycotting it to respond.
Yes.
What is the means to let Qatar respond and solve this problem that's taking place in the region now as we talk?
Yes, the meeting in Cairo was an important step in the coordination of policy between the 4 countries against Qatar. And at the same time, there will be another meeting in Manama. In Manama, there will be another meeting for much more coordination against Qatar and try to get it into cooperation with the Arab Gulf countries.
This is a future plan that the 4 countries
yes.
discussed in dealing with Qatar, sir?
Yes.
What are the rest of the
and
steps?
if it is not responding well, then they will go to the Arab League and they will go to the international community, to the United Nations against Qatar.
Great, sir. Is the international community responding to the Arab countries that are boycotting Qatar?
No, not for the time being, but anyway. Yes. When we have to give
so
proofs.
They're going to move on with the international community.
Yes.
Sir, in the future, do you think that the international community is going to be responding to the boycotting of
I wanted to talk about first as a solution that you mentioned, that we have 4 scenarios. You are saying that about what will be happen about this first meeting and what we are facing here, how this situation will be solved. You have 4 scenarios. The first scenario is situation will be the same and the relation will be frozen. It's meaning that Qatar will be insulated from the community of the Middle East, and you will go to the second stage of freezing the membership in the GCC countries. This is number 1, and this is hard. This is not easy. Number 2, military action, and that will not ever happen. That will not be ever put on the table. Why? Because the allies of the Qatar and or for the Arab, the United States will not allow will be a military action to become in Qatar, and of course Russia will not allow for that, and all the other countries. So military action, it's the second scenario, but it will not be on the table. Number 3 is finding a new agreement and a new deal broker in this situation. Now, when you look to Kuwait and Oman, and when we analyze the movement of Kuwait and Oman, they are great countries, and they are our brothers, and they are also Arab and Islamic countries, and we appreciate the rule they are using, especially Kuwait. But when you talk about the political influence to Kuwait in the region, it's not that strong to make the allies and the international community listen to your demands. So based on that, you need to move forward to the big allies, which is United States and Russia. But here in this, especially in this critical time, the only ally that we all aiming to have is Russia. Because Russia, they have a connection with Turkey and Iran. So Turkey cannot be this one who will play this role.
Do we have Russia, sir?
And we have Russia. And our relation with Russia, it's in the highest stages since 40 or 50 years ago. And Russia is also a good ally to the GCC countries. And did Russia in the last 2 years succeed in any brokered peace agreement? I'm seeing about, as what I start my talking, in the last Asitana, and freezing this actions it's have been in Syria, and putting those countries, which is Turkey and Saudi Arabia and even the Syria administration, on the table, and the ceasefire. So they have improvement. So this is the third scenario, is Russia will go enter the situation. Why Turkey cannot? Because Turkey, in the beginning of this crisis, have come in the side of Qatar. You cannot be in the middle. I'm talking about the international community. They cannot let you in the table and take the 2 sides, let them see the agreement. If you go in one side, you need to be in the middle. And this is what Turkey didn't do. Iran cannot be in the table, because Iran and Saudi Arabia, referring to your first question, between Saudi Arabia and Iran, Saudi Arabia represents the Sunni, and Iran represents the Shia. We are all Muslims in the end of the day, but those two lines of Islam have come to a political plans, which is in what Iran is aiming since 100 years, is to make the Shia crescent in the Middle East, and Saudi Arabia, they are looking for the stability to the Muslims. So this is here this is a situation. What's happening now in the Middle East, it's a dangerous plan, eating our roots if we will not be awake and we will not use the hand of the international community, and let's leave to be nervous in that.
How can we face this, sir? And how can we take our measures against anything that can ruin this Arab strong relationship?
Let's witness what happened. Military action cannot solve anything. In Yemen, in Syria, in Iraq, in Libya, nothing happened. We lose these countries. And these countries, to reboot your infrastructure, you need ages. So military, it's not on the table. Number two, dialogue. If we find that the members of any summit will be happen is serious to solve the misunderstanding on the table, we can put the summit. If not, we will not go in this kind of insulation or actions we will do. No, we will, if we want to really to drain the sources of tourism, let's see these countries, and even if the evidence we have, it will attack some big names, let's put it in the table. Because Qatar answer, a diplomat answer, what they said. They said, what is the evidence we have for that? But still, our leaders and those four countries still, let's say, they don't want to put it face to face, so we will lose and we will have wounds inside us if they talk. So you need now, if you wanted to solve that, you need a strong ally to put everyone in the table and to put the conditions. Solve that or that will happen. That's it.
Dear viewers, the International Labour Organization Better Work Program will boost economic commercial diversity in Egypt. More details in the following report, and we'll be back again with our guests. Stay tuned, please.
Minister of Investment and International Cooperation, Sahar Nasr, said the implementation of the International Labour Organization's Better Work Program would allow for economic and commercial diversity in Egypt. The Better Work Program aims to improve labour standards and competitiveness in global supply chains. In an official statement from the Ministry of Investment and International Cooperation, Nasr said that the ILO's approval to implement the program in 30 Egyptian garment companies from June to December 2017 came as a result of intensive efforts and constant coordination with the ILO. The ILO's approval of the program's implementation through the Ministry of Manpower shows recognition of the progress made in Egypt. It reflects the ILO's confidence in the government's commitment to completing the steps that would foster an adequate climate for such a program. Egypt will be joining 7 other countries where the program is established, including Jordan, Indonesia, Bangladesh, and others. The project deals with 2 million workers in 1,500 factories and establishes economic relations with about 35 major global companies in the United States, Europe, and Japan, which contributes to increasing job opportunities and attracting investments to Egypt. The first stage, which will be implemented from July through December, will involve an ongoing audit of Egyptian factories by the Trade and Industry Ministry. The second stage will be implemented starting January 2018, with the possibility of adding more sectors and locations to the program.
Welcome back, dear viewers. We're still watching the daily debate. We're discussing the meeting, the 4 Arab countries meeting that took place in Cairo earlier this morning. And we continue. Sir, you wanted to say your point of view?
Yes, there is a point of view from some analysts of international relations. They are saying that President Trump is giving an appearance that he is with the not clash of civilizations, but good relations between civilizations and religions. And he said that he was in Saudi Arabia, he was in Riyadh, then he went to the Pope in Rome, the Catholic Church, and then to Israel. So the three religions he is putting them in a good condition. But at the same time, the people are saying that he is in the context of real clash of civilizations. He is really coming with the clash of civilizations. He is against the Muslim world. He is against the Arab world.
Do you think, sir, that this is his actual intention?
Yes, he was. He is against from the very beginning. He against the Arabs.
He was.
Yes, and he ruined the Arabs in the area here. We have Yemen, we have Qatar, we have Iraq, we have Syria, we have Somalia from the last century. But now is trying his best to make the same thing in the Gulf area after sucking the financial power of these countries. Is trying also to put an end to Arabism and to Islam in this area. This is a point of view of some people of international relations. That's why it is said that he is doing his best to get these countries to be a failed states also in the Gulf countries, on the Gulf area.
Sir, Qatar announced on Tuesday it planned to raise liquefied natural gas capacity by 30%. What would be the consequences of this announcement, and what does it imply?
Actually, the subsequences, Qatar is trying to find a way out for this economic crisis now it's facing, because the only problem now, which when they announced in the last media speech they had before a week or 10 days ago, that they were gonna to make a new 2 lines in the seaports with Oman for the logistic supports, because everything is coming through Jabal Ali, Jafza free zone. So it's been stopped. And now in Saudi Arabia, it's also been stopped. But for them, they are aiming to have a new international corporation through Iran and through Kuwait and Oman as well, to the international community. So what they are aiming to do is they are delivering a message, of course, as a political scene, that our factories and our planet didn't been stopped, and we are still in operation. And this is number one for them, because they have lose a lot in the money market and the stability of the grade to the foreign policy.
Sir, they lost a lot, but they don't intend to make a consensus.
Because how they talk to you that you are interfering our national statement. And in that point of view, that when you talk to a country and you have a demand to change some of them, let's say, operation in the country, you cannot do it like that. You must do it in other way, in other diplomat way. But what they are referring is, we will not change what we are doing, because the way of the demand have been done, we didn't come in the table, we put in insulation. So our production is still coming, our factories is aiming. Yeah, we are importing 88% of our goods, but we already find a new resources. Why? Because they have the capital, and they are the richest country in the world. So when you look to this point of views, what you, as an international community or as an Arab community, it's not the money is the power here. The power here is the international law. That's why I respect really Minister Sameh Shukri and Minister El Jubair when they said we will reply based on the international law. That's it.
Sir, thinking out of the box, how are we going to be solving this crisis that's taking place now when Qatar does not intend to make any consensus?
It's really a very sad matter, but we hope it will be coming one day to an end. Otherwise, it will be very, very dangerous for the Arab national security, for the Arab countries, for the Gulf countries especially. So we hope one day it will come to an end. Otherwise, I mean, it is a fatal matter, and it is very dangerous for us, all of us, the Muslim world and the Arab world.
Unfortunately, sir. Sir, President Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, urged the leaders of the anti-terrorism countries to find a diplomatic solution with Qatar. How do you read this, and what's your take?
How I read this, as what I mentioned in the third question, that Vladimir Putin and Russia is the right ally to solve this problem. He come in the middle. He didn't say to you that I'm supporting Qatar or I'm supporting the 10 countries or the 4 countries that make the installation.
Yes.
He said otherwise. Look to Mr. Trump, his announcement and his comments and his posts in Twitter and all the media pages. It's a struggling news. When you look to his Minister of Foreign Affairs, what he is saying, Minister of Defense, and he himself, what he is saying, it's all puzzle. But when you look to Putin, he's sitting in his chair and he said, we are aiming that will be solved. So looking from my own perspective to that, Vladimir Putin is the guy, it's okay if we have a problem in our Arab community.
To count on.
To count on. And we
Not
count,
the United States.
Of course. In that time, you cannot count in the United States. Why also? Because United States, have its unit in Al-Udeid in Qatar, so you cannot take them in the table because, of course, they will be much more to defend them interest. This is number 2. Number 3 here, returning to your question before a while ago about do we will find the hope for that? And His Excellency mentioned that we hope that they will come. But how you can go in this line? It's look like to any lady in her kitchen once she cook a good meal and a nice meal and she bring it to her kids. The kids cannot eat because it's hot. So we need to calm down. We need the media to calm down because now what's happening is they are spreading the wound in the Arab community. So what we need is as an administration to set this fire in the media. I'm talking about the private media, of course, because any national television, they are in the middle. This is number 1. Number 2, let's open a door for them to come and talk with us, and let's see the outcome. Do they will come in a right movement with us or no? This is why I'm saying that. Why I'm not saying, no, let's cut the relation, let's make more and more and more. I'm now following what the 4 ministers of foreign affairs did today. They don't want to hurt the Qatari community and the Qatari people. And they wanted to not guide the administration in Qatar, but they wanted them to return back to the logistic bonds, which is the Arabs, not any other community. Yeah.
Sir, Qatari Foreign Minister said today that his country needs a healthy and constructive relationship with Iran, as Qatar and Iran share a gas field. How did the 4 Arab countries react to this announcement?
And I think, it is a great problem concerning Iran. And really, Iran is a neighboring country. We should have good relations with Iran. Qatar or the whole Gulf countries. But the problem is that the problem of politics is coming up, and also the international country like the United States and Israel are trying their best to make a problem between the Shiites and the Sunnis. And it is really something very fatal, very dangerous for the whole Muslim and for the whole Arab world. That's why we have to do something. There should be good relations, there should be a dialogue between the Arab countries and Iran, but not in the way Qatar is doing, using it politically against the other countries. So we have to do something, and we have to, to return to the real, point of view. Who is the enemy of the Arab world? Is it Israel, and is it Israel or Iran? If we come, we should return really to the real thing, that our enemy is not Iran, should be Israel. But at the same time, we have to say to Iran, we have to dialogue. There should be a dialogue with Iran to put our point of view also with Iran, not politically, not religiously. We should not concentrate on politics, but there should be something between the Muslim world, whether they are Muslims or Sunnis, and not to give the chance for the international community and for our enemies to make problems between the Shiites and the Sunnis.
Sir, what's the effect of the crisis on Europe, the United States and Australia?
I think it's something from the economic point of view, there is a problem. And from the political point of view, if we take the problem of clash of civilizations, I think they should be happy with it. But if we come to the international relations really and the peace in the world, it is very dangerous. And that's why some analysts in international relations are saying that we are living and we are saying every day, we are seeing the third world war coming up. It is there in Syria, and now it's coming up to the Gulf countries.
Sir, in your opinion, how could this crisis come to an end? And could the Arab nations impose more sanctions on Qatar, and should it refuse to meet their demands, what could be those other sanctions?
From my own perspective, that this...
Which I was asking you at the start of the program, escalating the sanctions on Iran and Qatar.
Escalating the actions will not do any movement. Because you cannot come, again, I'm saying, in my house, I'm the man of my house, and then another man will come saying, do this and don't do this. No, let's respect the opposite. We already have an evidence that this country is funding tourism. Let's come in the table under the observation of the United Nations, National Council, the International Council, and as I say, and a strong ally, look like whatever the leaders will choose. Let's put them all in the table, and let's raise the evidence we have that we are saying that you are funding tourism. There is the Iranian guards is in Qatar. They were saying that about the Muslim Brotherhood and about the transferring money everywhere. Let's put this demands as an evidence in the international community under the observation of the United Nations and the International Court and the International Council as well, and let's put it and talk to them. This is our evidence. What they are saying is, you guys don't have an evidence and you are just want to insulate us, because always our movement in Yemen or in Syria or in Iraq or in Libya or in any place, it was in the middle, it was stable. And those countries saying, no, what have been done, it have been done because of the weapons come from Qatar, because of the money have been funding to the ISIS or whatever. Okay, let's not go in the propaganda of the media. I'm saying it again. Let's come in a table and let's make this confidential. You cannot raise an operation happening in the region to the media as what have been done. No, you can come in one table and put everything you want to say, because there is an international law. There is a border we are all going through. Egypt cannot go and attack its neighbor tomorrow. Why? Because we are all signing in the United Nations, the international law and the international agreement under the 5 objects of the UN. So based on that, if you want to end this tomorrow, they said in Qatar, we are open for any dialogue will come in the table. Let's accept that, and let's put the one as a judge for what we are having, even he is not an Arab, and let's put the United Nations observer on the table, and let's see who is mistaken. And who is mistaken, let them decide what will happen.
Sir, do you see us cornered and we are the weaker side, or Qatar is the weaker side? How do you read what's going on?
Nobody's weak here. We are all strong.
We're all strong. Who is taking the upper hand now?
No one yet.
No one yet.
No one yet.
Yes, still the problem is going. The crisis is still
and it will
going
continue.
How do you read the solution to the crisis, sir?
There should be a dialogue, real dialogue between the Gulf countries, and we have to come to the lesson now in the Arab world and in the Gulf countries with the Arab League and the Arab Cooperation Council. We should solve our problems inside the Arab world, inside the Gulf countries organization. We should do something to respect ourselves and try to solve our problems between us.
Qatar does not want to negotiate, sir.
No, they bought before 3 days or 4 days that they are open for any dialogue. I'm not here against Qatar or against our country or other countries. I'm against that we will be not united.
You want us to be not united, sir?
Yes.
When this crisis was applicable and it started, and it was then when we were together in this program, and we were discussing the Qatari crisis and the escalation of the Qatari crisis. Yeah. Since then till today, what do you read and how do you see it going on?
Actually,
quickly, sir, because we have to.
Yeah, actually, what I read is these movements have been done. It's good. It's good that there is
the meeting that took place.
Yeah, today. What I see that in the upcoming weeks that there will be a movement and this crisis will be solved. Yeah, we have a good leader and we have a good leaders now in the Arab world. And what I'm seeing is they want to solve that, but in a way that to protect our communities. Fighting terrorism, peace to all Arabs. And that's
hopeful, sir.
Hopeful.
Sir, do you have any words that you want to say before we wrap up today's program?
Well, we have to preserve our national security. We have to do something to respect each other as Arabs and as Gulf countries, and not let the outside world to solve your problems. It's a very dangerous
sir,
thing.
we won't let the outside world or the international community solve us problems. Ambassador Mohammed Mahmoud El-Ashmawi, member of the Egyptian Foreign Affairs. Sir, we thank you so much for joining us here in today's episode of the Daily Debate and giving us more in-depth knowledge about what's going on. Ambassador Mohammed El-Husseini, Economic Committee Director, UN Association. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us more in-depth and updated ideas about and information about the ongoing that took place in the meeting that took place in earlier in the morning. There was a press conference between the 4 Arab countries to discuss the Qatari crisis. This was what we tackled and discussed in our program today in the Daily Debate, and we had with us our guest. We're very thankful to our guest. From all the team here, our director Akram Bishara, myself Rana Al-Khassas. I thank you so much, dear viewers, for joining us, and until we meet again tomorrow with another team here on Nile TV, thank you so much for joining us.